Welcome back to the balance sheet, everyone. I am Billy, and this is my co-host Raj.
What's up,
We
everybody?
are we are joining you here with kind of a light week in the news. We've got some fun, you know, uh, storylines occurring both in WWE and AEW as we move to kind of the next PLE, the next pay-per-view, but kind of an in-between week. So we're going to cover what's been going on in both and also some independent booking stuff. And then really this week's top five episode, which we are bringing back because of all of your feedback of how much you enjoy it. We're just going to be truthful. There's no way to do this one in 10 minutes. There's going to be a lot to talk about. So it's going to actually dominate the episode. It will be the top five worst booking decisions ever. Both of us will present our list. We have not discussed it per the usual. We don't know if we have complete overlap or no overlap at all. So we're excited to present that list to you guys. Um, let's kind of go through the week though. We'll start with the WWE. Um, this is something that we ask for a lot and don't always get, but we are getting a well written, consistently booked storyline that has ebbs and flows and good guys and bad guys and characters in the middle who are caught in between and way more layered than we get. We should get more often in wrestling, but we don't as much as we should. But this Asuka, Io, Kairi, Rhea storyline has been great. So I'm going to kick it to you. I know that it's been one of your favorite things out there, and just kind of talk us through the latest developments.
Yeah, I think this is the best thing going in wrestling, personally. This whole
Agreed.
storyline is the best thing going in wrestling, and I think the WWE is hitting a cold streak. The ticket sales you can look at now, you can make the case that the ticket sales being down are because of pricing, but I think it's actually because it's a cold product. The streets are always way ahead of the market, and I think a lot of us who intently watch wrestling like you and I do every week, we've been
Yeah.
saying, hey, they're in a lull. I think there's a lot of things. I think the Seth angle, whatever he is, the vision, it's kind of stale. Well, it's not kind of stale. It is stale because it's the same thing
Yeah.
every week. I think Cody Rhodes is a top draw. While he's a top draw and he's drawn a lot of money, I think he's getting stale. And I think
Agree.
Roman, coming back every other, 6 months is getting tiresome too. But the saving grace for WWE, and I'm talking about NXT, SmackDown, Raw, is this Asuka, Kairi, Io, Rhea
The
storyline.
women have saved the year.
Well, I think Io and Rhea have actually saved the WWE this year. I think, Asuka's been great, Kairi's been great. Bianca was great when she was in the role with them. But if you look at
Naomi.
them and kind of the Charlexa thing, that's it. That's pretty much been, and Naomi was amazing. I'm sorry, Naomi was spectacular. And then, she had a blessing, so she had to walk away. But currently, these four are it for me. Like I watch all the women's segments, and I'm kind of like wondering what they're doing with Becky, but like these four women are carrying wrestling to me, not just the WWE, but they're carrying all of wrestling because in this you're getting the EO eventual Rhea match where Rhea will win and finally get to beat her bugaboo. But then you're also spinning off Kairi Asuka. And I feel like this is finally the makings of a super babyface Kairi where, look, I'm playing this thing down the road. Why couldn't Kairi finally stand up to Asuka at some point, beat her, and then win the IC title? From a Becky. I think the crowd would be super invested in a Kyrie beating Asuka and then going for kind of the wrestling title, as they say, or even the world title. Who knows? But to me, these four women have been excellent. The writing has been great, the facials, the storytelling, the nuances. Asuka has been her evil best. I mean, she's fantastic as
Yeah.
I compare what her and Kyrie are doing to Macho Man and Elizabeth. And I know people are gonna go, well, it's two women, man and women. But if you look, she's being really the abusive kind of, girlfriend or the abusive leader. And Kyrie's being very Miss Elizabeth, like, no, 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 we can all get along, we can all be
Yeah,
friends, let's do that. So I don't know who's writing this story, but they need to write more for the WWE.
it's good.
And I just wonder if it's to the point where Rhea now being who Rhea Ripley is and has real say is getting her voice heard because there was somebody I wish I had the Twitter handle. He posted something that says women like this actually exist and he posted a picture of Rhea Ripley and it's gotten 31 million views on Twitter. So, I'm going to kick it back to you here, but this is what I will say in closing. I think it's time that the WWE builds their company around Rhea Ripley. I'm not talking about the women's division. I think it's time for the Roman Reignses and the Cody Rhodeses and why on it, the Seth Rollins and the Braun Breakers and the Jey Usos to take a step back and let Rhea Ripley be the face of the company because I think she's the hottest thing they have. And I think Io being kind of her Joker is a legitimate main event match when they finally face off against each other. Like, I mean, WrestleMania main event. And it's way better than anything the men are doing. So that's my opinion. I think this company should be built around Rhea Ripley. It'll bring up a lot of other women. And I think this storyline should main event the Perth show, even though it's John Cena's, I guess, last Australian match against AJ Styles. But that feud has no build. Like it's literally a match. So to me,
Yeah.
it should main event Perth.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you said a lot of good stuff there where it's like we talked about Rhea taking on that Undertaker role. If she could be in a main event whenever she wants, doesn't have to have the belt attached to it. And we're talking, prime 2000s Undertaker, where he was really kind of putting out great matches. Um, and I'll take it one step further with Rhea. There are at least protected matches with Rhea that you could say you could build like a boxing match, right? We just saw Canelo Crawford and they built and hyped it because it was like this versus this and it's that top of the billing thing. What's a match you can build with Roman Reigns that's going to just hype what's ready made now that if you said Roman Reigns is fighting this person, that it's going to be, you know, there's plenty that could because it's Roman Reigns, but it doesn't feel fresh. None of it feels fresh. Rhea Bianca is still the minute it happens, it should top any show, no matter who's on the damn show. Um, Rhea, Stephanie Vicaire, the Rhea EO thing is going to be big, big, big when she gets over that bugaboo. So I agree. I will say it'll be interesting to see how committed they are to the Asuka thing because she's doing such good work. And where WWE shoots itself in the foot a lot, especially for the women, they do a better job with the men. When they get a hot heel that people are actually annoyed with, boo, sick of, they let the babyface win too quickly a lot. Blue hair Sasha Banks comes to mind, right? Um, we think back to SummerSlam 2021. We both believed she was going to beat Bianca, and that would have actually worked because it would have been heel, 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 built up in a way that would have been hot. They did it with Roman, right? Roman was the hottest in the business because they let everyone just get sick of him winning. The women, they cut the legs out too quickly on heel runs a lot. If it's not kind of the chosen person there, and Asuka's not the chosen person, but this story's picking up a lot of steam. I love Kairi in this. I love Kairi. I When Io and Kairi came to WWE, I connected with Kairi earlier than I connected with Io. Um, once Io kind of went that darker version of her with the trance music and all that, and what the beast she turned into in NXT, I connected with that. But if you look back at Mae Young Classic, the two versions of them that wrestled, Kairi was more ready at that moment, as a super underdog babyface. So uh, no one likes to see Kyrie do mean things. She's the perfect person for this role. She's like cringing as she, hits EO and all that. So yeah, I've enjoyed it. And I like that it's been a consistent slow burn. It hasn't been, they haven't forgot to work on it. They haven't rushed it. It's got a trajectory each week for fan investment. So that's what's working. Let's talk about kind of something that they have to do because Crown Jewel's coming up, and boy, did the first segment not work. Tiffany, Stephanie. There are very few people who are bigger Stephanie Becerra fans than you.
Mhm.
Um, I don't know that I recall you saying, I don't like a segment that Stephanie was in. I don't know that that's happened.
I
Um,
liked I liked seeing her on my screen, but I think that the segment. So I'll give you my perspective, but did you watch the contract signing?
I did.
Okay, so what did you think of it?
I just thought it was predictable. I thought there's no reason for these two to. I think back to like Survivor Series, right? When you've got two babyface champions, and it's like we're gonna fight to see who the best is, and it's so weird because Tiffany's won so many matches, but I just think that rings hollow.
Yeah.
I don't think that we're gonna see who the best is works for this match. Um, I don't think the fans that see Tiffany as a babyface see her as a babyface like that. I don't know. It just didn't work, and the writing was bad. Um, the Julia thing was interesting. At the end of it, is that who Tiffany pivots to? Yeah,
Okay, so the Julia thing makes sense because it's WWE. They have to figure out a way for Stephanie and Tiffany to team up before their match.
true.
I don't know. They're both baby faces. They don't hate each other. They're literally fighting. They're doing like so I think of three very good women's matches that have happened at Survivor Series. To a lot of people in 2017, the best Alexa Bliss match of her career was against Charlotte, right?
It's
So
my favorite one.
it was
Yes,
the Raw champion in Charlotte, or the Raw champion Alexa against the SmackDown champion Charlotte, where they had some heated promos. They jumped each other. They were locker room brawls between the women in the traditional match and then the champion versus champion thing. It was more for bragging rights, right? So in 2021, no, 2020, you had Asuka versus Sasha Banks at
teach tape.
Survivor Series.
That's a teach tape
That
match.
was
So good.
and that was a really technically great match where Sasha finally got over her bugaboo of beating Asuka. I think up to that point she never beat Asuka clean and never
Right.
pinned Asuka because she won the title with the stupid ref thing with Bailey and all that stuff. And then 2022, the next year, in my opinion, you had the best of these matches, which was Becky against Charlotte in a match I think is their best match. Now, there was real heat going into that match because of the title swapping, the dropping, the backstage segment where Charlotte had to get escorted out of the arena because they were mad at each other. So there was real heat, but they worked their tail off. It was a great match. This is the least compelling I can think of these type of matches. I thought Nia Liv Morgan was even more compelling than this. And I am a humongous Stephanie McCour fan. I just feel like this is a flat match. And here's the other thing. Tiffany should actually win this match. If we're being honest here, Tiffany should win because Tiffany has not lost the whole year. If she's going to lose or when she loses, she should lose to somebody who's going to win the title and it makes that person. Losing to Stephanie doesn't do anything now because Stephanie beating her, okay, she beats Stephanie, at least she still has the zero on her ledger, and then the person who beats her can can have something to shoot for. And I think Tiffany should turn heel in this match. In my opinion, this is how I would book this match. Julia and Kiana James help Tiffany beat Stephanie, and this was all a ploy by Tiffany. And she now joins this group, and now you have the two titles as heels on SmackDown, and so you have people who can chase them. That's how I would book this thing. That's why I think Tiffany should win. I know it's an unpopular opinion and people will crush me for this, but I do think so.
I love that idea if there's an alignment change. I actually really think it's a good idea if there's an alignment change. If you're telling me that Tiffany should win the match just as this baby face is better than this baby face, I do disagree only because, and it's actually you'll see it in my worst booking decisions ever. I I am I love wrestling because they get to basically create a sports league where the decisions they make the product hotter or colder. And that's fun to me, right? Like I'm a Lions fan. You don't think the NFL would have liked the Lions to win a Super Bowl at some point because their fans would have went crazy? We'll go somewhere different. Buffalo's on behind you. The
Yeah.
NFL would love Buffalo to win a Super Bowl. It just hasn't happened, right? It doesn't even have to be from a big city in the NFL. These fan bases are crazy. The number one hat selling year of the last 25 years, and I know this because I'm in a little bit in the industry, was the year that the Chicago Cubs won the World Series. Lids and places like that
2015?
sold 2015 sold more hats. 2016, right? Was it
Was it
2016?
2016? Yeah, yeah.
I
You
think
know
so.
why? Because 2015 would have been exactly the year Back to the Future predicted it.
Yeah.
It is the year
So
after.
they sold the shit out of Chicago Cubs hats that
Yeah.
year. And you couldn't book a better thing for the business. So when I book wrestling, I book for supernova. I want to book something to be a rocket ship, and I don't think Tiffany can be a rocket ship at this moment. I would wager Stephanie could, so that's
Oh,
how I would book it. Um, I
uh,
like your idea though because Stephanie is not on SmackDown, and SmackDown is the show that is sinking
yes.
creatively. And so I think to boost the SmackDown banner, they need something fresh. So I like your idea.
I think I agree. Look, Stephanie is my by far the hotter talent. Tiffany, again, on paper, her reign looks like one of the best reigns of all time, but it's just on paper. It's a very hollow, hollow reign because she's beaten a lot of big names. She has not lost. She's been booked great, but the match quality has just not been there. And a lot of it is with her, in my opinion, in her own doing.
Yeah,
She has not been the ring general. Now, people are going to say, well, she's 25, but you know what? Again and again, I don't really care about what this person has to say, and I know you don't. But the person who everybody parrots and talks about as the voice of journalists, wrestling journalists, he said, "Hey, 2 years ago, he said Tiffany has a chance to be the best American women's wrestler ever, and she is already at the same level that the 2015 Sasha Banks was."
crazy statement.
So if you look at that, it's aged awful. Like that has been about as bad a statement as you could make because
It aged like the
I think
Arizona
Tiffany,
Cardinals lead today.
I think Tiffany has progressively gotten worse
She
as a
has.
wrestler.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. The reason I'm really hoping that they shock me with a Julia, Kiana James, that this remember, they gave Tiffany the business card. Tiffany never threw it away. Tiffany never, ever, ever like said, I would never join you guys. And it would be so awesome if they helped her. Because to me, Bianca, the end game for Tiffany Stratton's title reign is Bianca Belair beating her. It has to be at this point. That's the only
Yeah.
thing that really saves SmackDown. And to me, you have to build Tiffany up with she needs a heavy. And it cannot be Nia Jax because I think people are just sick of that pairing, whether they're opponents or together. So
Can't be. Yeah.
Julia being Tiffany's kind of like Arn Anderson enforcer while being the US champion is very NWA booking where you have, the secondary champion is kind of you got to beat them to get to, so like I would love, and again, I know this is booking a little far in advance. I would love Bianca to have to beat Julia for the US title to get to WrestleMania, but this is how I would do it. Bianca has to beat Julia the night one at WrestleMania in order to face Tiffany night two.
Yeah.
So night two, Bianca would become a dual champion because I think it's been a long time since she has held a singles title. And the one thing you know about Bianca Belair, she will bring it in a big match. And I think she will get Tiffany's best match out of Tiffany, and I've seen them have some chemistry. But to me, that's the only way I would book this. If it's not going to be booked the way I'm booking it, then Stephanie should just win. But to me, that does nothing for either person. At least if Stephanie loses because of interference, she's protected. Tiffany just losing to a non-SmackDown person makes no sense. She should only lose to a SmackDown person. And by the time we get to Mania, if Tiffany keeps the belt till then, she would have broken Bianca's record for the longest modern reign. So that's
Everyone
another,
on this is going to love that.
well, that's another incentive for Bianca to beat her though. Because it's
Right.
like, "Hey, you broke my record." So that's how I would do it. So I think for us, WWE, that's pretty much it. Charlotte Alexa got a backstage segment, which is always entertaining, but I don't know what they're do. I mean, I know what they're doing there with Sol Roca and Zarya challenging for the tag titles, which is fine. But let's pivot over to AEW. So
Hmm.
this week in AEW, we got clarity. WrestleDream is going to have um Chris Statlander defending the title against Tony Storm. Apparently, a person she's never faced one-on-one. This is the
Right.
first time they've ever fought one-on-one, so that's good. Wrestle Dream makes sense. We also now know Mercedes, and we'll talk about her in a minute, is not going to be on this show because she's going to be booked everywhere around it. So I,
I do think that there's a small chance that what if so I'll jump into it and we'll talk about her after. She's going to be in Mexico City and then Winnipeg. St. Louis is in between. Now, I don't think it's fair to ask her to do a 20-minute match or even a 15-minute match on WrestleDream. AEW fans have ridiculous standards, and she basically has to be perfect. They judge her very harshly. You saw it in person at All Out, right? Um, I do think, though, if she showed up and did like a fun little open challenge and it was a match that like nobody expected to get, and she got like a 12-minute title defense or something. I'm pushing for that, but I think you're right. It's unlikely to happen. So, do we only get one women's match on WrestleDream? That would suck. Do we get a start of the tag titles? I don't know. But Kris and Toni needs to be, regardless of what Mercedes is doing, needs to be the 15 and maybe even hopefully 20-minute match. Has to
yeah,
be. Has to be.
yeah,
I
they
loved their segment on Collision.
both of them, both segments, right? They
Yep.
had a Dynamite segment where they
Yep.
brawled. They had the Collision segment where they lied in the ring and they kind of were talking to each other. Um, Again, and I'm sure I have a feeling it might be covered in our top five, but this is why I was very like, if you wanted to get Chris the title, I understand getting Chris the title. She deserves it. Why couldn't it have been Mercedes beating Tony, Chris beating Mercedes finally to win the title? Like I get the Tony Storm, wanted to cement her to beat Mercedes, but I feel like Tony's kind of been flat too after the match with Mercedes. Like, I don't really love anything she's done except for this stuff with Chris.
I'll take it one step further. Her beating Mercedes and then Athena in a weird match with Athena, basically to double tap the other two dominant champions just to lose in a four-way and never main evented in this run, does make me question if Tony's willing to put the women in a main event of a pay-per-view. It does make me say that he has something in his brain where he's not going to do it unless it like happens and he has to do it. Because take I'm a Mercedes Mark, whatever. Tony Storm deserved to main event a pay-per-view. And All Out wasn't they didn't have a match on All Out that was built so great that Tony couldn't there were chances. There were chances. I get why Mercedes and Tony couldn't at All In because of the Hangman story. I still think they should have. But if I knew Toni was winning, then I agree they shouldn't. Um, but Toni Storm deserved a pay. Toni Storm deserves to be the first women's pay-per-view main event for AEW. Toni
Yeah,
also should not be anywhere near the belt after this. So that's the problem.
yeah, I agree
She's a
that Tony.
four-time champ.
I thought Tony and Mercedes should have been the first main event simply because it gives Tony the first to do it, and it gives Mercedes the I'm the only woman to ever main event New Japan. I'm the only woman to main event WWE, NXT, and now AEW. And I think that her doing that, it would allow Tony to put her in an elevated bracket that no other woman has because Io and Rhea are not main eventing. I mean, I do think the WWE women will main event WrestleMania before women main event an AEW pay-per-view. I believe that. I totally believe that. But I think that it has to be Rhea Ripley. I don't know who else that you could put the other person in there,
Has to be
insert
Rhea
person.
Ripley.
I don't know if Rhea Ripley was in AEW, would she main event? Like, I gotta be honest,
I,
I feel like it would have to be Rhea Ripley signing to AEW and then saying, Tony, I'm only gonna sign if I get to main event the first show. Period. And then he would do it because he wants the person. But I don't think because like I said, Tony books like Jim Crockett. He books like, not Nick
the
Bostwick, Vern Gagne. And they would never,
yeah.
those two gentlemen would never, ever have women main event over men. I don't care because, and where I'm going with this is, and I don't want to deviate here, but in NWA, there was a very hot storyline with Baby Doll and Jimmy Garvin. There was a lot of women who could have maybe not main evented as a match, but had like they were part of the main event mix, and it was always the world champion, world champion, world champion, world champion, unless it's
No.
like a stip match. And that's exactly what Tony does, right? Unless it's a stip match, it's the world champion. That's it.
Yeah. And we are kind of deviating. I don't want it to sound like we're not. I think Kris is a great champion, and I actually think Kris on TV as champion has been better as champion on weekly TV than most of the time that belt's ever been booked. I think Tony's been a great world champion. I think Mariah May had her moments. I think Jamie Hayter had her moments back in the day. But Kris looks like someone who could ascend in a way that more people tune in to see what Kris Statlander is doing. You called her Stone Cold Kris Statlander. I think what they did with Moxley and Yuta was brilliant. It rejuvenated the crowd behind her. So I love what they're doing. And she needs to, you know, Tony needs to do the deed. And this is booking 101, everyone. Tony needs to lose convincingly. Like Kris is putting her on the wall at WrestleDream.
I
The
agree with
only
that.
reason you do the rematch is to have everyone go, shit, new sheriff in town, right? That's why Mercedes and Tony didn't have a rematch because it's like Tony Khan is trying to keep that jump ball in the air. Like Tony could win, Mercedes could win. That should not happen here. Kris won this thing in a four-way. She needs to take Kris out, or she needs to take Tony out. Kris needs to take Tony out at WrestleDream, like a convincing win.
How hypothetically, I just used Jim Crockett. You know how Jim Crockett would book that match? Or Dusty Rhodes would? Tony Storm wins.
Squashish.
No, Tony Storm wins and joins the Death Riders.
Oh God, it just doesn't fit at all, though.
No, 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 but it doesn't fit. That's why you would never see it coming, right?
Right,
Like Sting in the Four Horsemen, that never fit. But it happened
right, right.
because eventually you can set up Kris against I don't know how, I mean, to me, the easy way to book it is Kris just wins and you kind of move on to the next thing. And maybe Tony goes after Mercedes and the TBS title, and then Mercedes beats her, and that's how she gets her win back. I don't know, but
Yeah.
yeah, I think for AEW, so we talked a little bit about the top AEW storyline. Mercedes has a lot of independent bookings during WrestleDream, right? So she's now trying to win a belt out of Winnipeg, Manitoba. Is that correct?
Yeah, so I think if you're a Mercedes fan, this is a very exciting 2 or 3 weeks. And let me lay it out for you. She's got an open challenge on Title Tuesday in Jacksonville. She said it will be a Floridian. Um,
Do you have
you
any
could
idea who that is? Who do you think it is?
some people have thrown Red Velvet out there because that would be your last title defense before breaking Jade's record. And Red Velvet. People have thrown Izzy out there. You got independent wrestlers from all over Florida in Mercedes mentioned saying, "Hey, I live in Florida." Dakota Kai is not from Florida but lives in Florida. So I think it's the only women's match on a 2.5 hour show, which again is despicable. But it Tony Khan, if you don't do something fun as hell with this, you're an idiot.
What if it was Britt Baker?
I don't know. Florida. I mean, she's a Florida. Yeah. I mean, so it could be a lot of people. A lot of women's wrestlers live in Florida, i.e., WWE is located in Florida. Um, Not that it would be anyone from WWE, but a lot of people are down there training. But Mercedes fans, let me lay this out. Daly's Place Tuesday. Then she's got a match in Denmark that got announced today. Denmark. That will be this upcoming weekend. So she's flying from Florida to Denmark. I would imagine she would take another European booking while she's over there. Who knows? But presumably, she defends her title on Tuesday, wins belt number 10 at Body Slammers, October 10th in Denmark. So that would be number 10. Then she's got her CMLL defense against Persephone on October 17th. That's going to be a great match. Presuming she comes out victorious, then there's WrestleDream. We don't think she's wrestling there. And if she is, it would probably be an open challenge type of thing. But let's just say she's not. Then she's wrestling in Winnipeg. She's wrestling Jody Threat, who is actually the woman who helped Trish Stratus get back into ring shape, if you look at
Yes.
her social media. But she's going to wrestle the Rumble in the Burt in WPW, and presumably that's belt number 11. Why this is important is this. She will pass Jade's record and win belt number 11 over the next 2 weeks. That's 11 is the stated goal. She breaks the Ultimo Dragon 10 belt record. All bets are off after number 11. She could lose any match after that happens. She could lose her TBS title. She could lose any of these other belts. It kind of opens the whole world up for they better book her with some fastball challengers because the crowd will actually now start to believe she could lose if they tell the story right.
Mhm.
So, two big milestones. I did think there was a slight chance she was losing to Persephone
I
at
think there is
CMLL.
a chance. I do think there's a chance because
It,
I think it's fitting that the woman who believes she's the wrestling daughter of Eddie Guerrero from right here in El Paso loses to a wrestler who's actually from El Paso. That would be an interesting little bit of synergy. I don't know. I agree. I don't think she's going to lose. I think she has to get belt 11 so she can, it's like
she's pot
people
committed.
people
Pot
are people
committed.
are
She has to do it.
yeah, people are not going to like what I have to say. She's not getting the heel heat with 11 titles the way Becky Lynch gets the heel heat with I am the greatest women's wrestler of all time. And I'm not the only one who says it. Sports Illustrated says it, New York Times says it, Bleacher Report says it. That's the type of heel heat Mercedes is trying to get by getting all these belts. It has not worked. It just hasn't worked. But if she wins belt 11, then to your point, why it becomes a thing is because now she can lose at any time. because she's broken, like you said, both records. So then she has the record, she can just lose it.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. So yeah,
I think the reason it hasn't worked is because Becky's boasting isn't tied to anything. And unfortunately, Mercedes boasting, there are markers on the road that make the crowd go, she's not losing. And
I,
and and that
I also think Becky has an advantage of a crowd that's more willing to participate,
that's
right?
true.
Like
Totally
the
true.
crowd is willing to play the game because remember, at first with the Lyra feud, they were kind of 50-50. They didn't really like Lyra as
Yeah.
much, and then they got into Lyra. The only place the Becky thing hit a hiccup was Nikki Bella, because when she blasted Nikki, the crowd just went so ridiculous for Becky. It was like, oh, are you the heel? But I will say, people are cheering for Maxine against her. And I think Becky's really annoying. I think Mercedes is really annoying. But before we go to our top five, got to talk about something that did happen that to me was the most significant thing on AEW women's wrestling TV. That is the repairing of Mercedes and Harley, who I did say should be the first women's tag team champions. And now it looks like maybe that couldn't happen because why can't Mercedes win the tag belt, lose CMLL, and that's belt 11,
It could. It
right?
could. That's the thing is the fans who thought she was going to lose a belt and then dump them all quickly. I don't think that's happening, man. I think Rev Pro loves her. I think Rev Pro wants her around and involved. These Italian belts, man, they run like 2 or 3 shows a year. There's no reason to get these belts off of her. She does keep posting the NJPW Strong Women's Championship the last week or so. She wants that Saya match. We want that Saya match. The world wants that Saya match.
Yeah, that'd be a crazy match.
She's posted her holding that belt like 10 times over the last week. Okay, we can't hold it in any longer. This is probably the most passionate top five. It's really a bottom five if you think about it. It's a bottom five.
It is.
The most passionate bottom five we might have. We want to leave some time for it. Do we want to reel off our five or do we want to go back and forth?
Um, yeah, why don't we do this? Why don't we go, table tennis? So I'll go five, you go five, then you
Yep.
go four, I go four. So
Okay.
it's like a snake reveal. So I have my board. I'm not going to show it because then it'll give away the other ones. But my first, let me say this. My honorable mention is 2025 EO backstage for 2 months. Horrific, horrific booking
Horrific.
decision. She was
Agreed.
as hot as anybody in the company, and they did not have her wrestle, which is actually her gift. So that's my honorable mention. But number five, beating Bianca in 30 seconds, SummerSlam 2021. The reason I have this,
Hate it.
the reason I have this as number five and not higher is because they figured out how to get it told correctly at the end.
Yeah.
So the only reason it's not higher on my list is because Bianca did get the Mania win, did beat her clean at SummerSlam, and kind of had Becky almost stick her hand out and say, "Hey, you're the better woman." Okay. But it took a long time to get this thing correct when it was one of the dumber booking decisions of all time. Look, I don't want to rehash 2021. We don't know what happened to Sasha Banks and why she did not wrestle in that match against Bianca, but you should not have had Bianca lose when she was as hot a champion as she was in 30 seconds. It just made her look like a dork. And then it took her a whole 9 months to get the title back. She lost a lot of steam until she had the match with Becky at WrestleMania. So I just thought that was the fifth worst women's booking decision of the modern era. So that's my number five.
That's a great one. I actually have that as my honorable mention. That was my number six. And I'll be fair with everyone. This could have been the worst one ever. Just what happened in the ring. It's number one or two ever of the worst ever. But it was at least fixed. and it was fixed quickly enough to get it lower on the list. But you can't. You spent a year building up Bianca at a level only Kurt Angle and Brock Lesnar had seen before, beating Bayley, beating Sasha Banks in the main event of WrestleMania. This idea that they did it so that she'd be made against Becky, she was already freaking made, and they tried to unmake her almost. It just didn't work. That was my honorable mention, so I'm with you there. At least they fixed it, thank God. My number 5, and this whole list, some of these are recent enough, they could climb the list or they could fall off the list. It depends on what happens in the future. My number 5 is having Toni Storm defeat Mercedes Moné at All In. This could get worse. Hear me out, AEW fans, Toni Storm fans. I'm trying to hit home runs in this business. I'm trying to hit grand slams. And Toni Storm beating Mercedes Moné is like having your cleanup hitter go the opposite way and poke a single over the third baseman's head to score 2 runs while you're down by 3. That's the person that I pay to hit a home run. And a home run in that spot puts me ahead. Mercedes winning would have been a hotter decision for the business. It would have been something that they could have crowed about for the upcoming Dynamites. And what they did with Toni after makes me feel less good about it. She didn't main event. She had a weird match with Athena, and she lost to Kris. Love Kris. Actually, one of my booking decisions here is related to Kris that's coming up. Love Kris. Happy she has the belt. Toni being the greatest AEW women's champion of all time and losing the belt in a 4-way, I don't like it. I don't like it. So they're trying to fix that part with the rematch. But I think Mercedes winning would have been a possible tribal chief, grow the business. People tune in to finally see this person lose type of move. And I think they kind of chickened out on it. So am I going 4 next?
Yeah. Let me
Okay.
just give you a couple of
Yeah.
like bullets on that one. So I don't disagree. It was number 7 on my list. It could rank higher depending on how this whole thing plays out. Um, I I agree with you, by the way. I think it is a bad booking decision. My hesitancy now is if Mercedes won, would Tony have just made her lose in a 4-way? Like, what would have been the end result? Would we have gotten the tribal chief S?
Right.
Would we have, or
No.
would we have just gotten her to lose the neck? Like, it just feels like, other than the Tony Mariah story, they've never really had a fully flushed out start to finish story with the women. So that's the only reason it wasn't on my list, is because I just don't know if I fully trust Tony to take advantage of it. Like, to me,
I hear you.
yeah, so that's it. But yes, you're number 4.
So here's my number 4, and let me give the caveat that there are some people that have been booked poorly enough times that they could have had their own list. I try to have a diverse list, and I kind of tried to look at what the next move was after each thing, and ultimately what did it do for women's wrestling. So this one may be controversial. This is not a booking decision. This is not a match outcome decision. My number 4 was putting Nia Jax and Alexa Bliss as a main match of WrestleMania 34. This and Asuka Charlotte was the other match, and it was incredible. But we had gone from WrestleMania 32, which at the time was the greatest triple threat women's match ever. And then WrestleMania 33, you had the 4-way match.
And a six-pack challenge.
And a 6-pack challenge. This putting these two and having it be like a fat shaming segment and a mean girl story and all that stuff, I think slowed the division down. It slowed the division down, and ultimately Becky Lynch getting kind of over on her own and then punched in the face is actually what saved it, because coming out of WrestleMania 34, if you go watch April, June, July, August, some pretty uninspiring shit. You didn't have Sasha or Bailey doing anything very cool at all. Charlotte was cold because people were mad that she beat Asuka. Asuka came to a screeching halt, and it was all in service of having this Nia Alexa story that was never going to deliver in the ring. So I'm just kind of controversial. It's a mean opinion for our show, but I hated the basically, it's a fat shaming storyline. It was dumb, and I'm happy to say it not happy to say. I have no shame saying that it hurt the division at the time.
That's an interesting one. I did not think of that one at all, but I agree with you. It was a terrible decision, simply because Nia Jax being like the overcoming babyface in a feud with Alexa Bliss just doesn't make any sense. Like, and it wasn't like if Nia Jax, if they did the fat shaming thing and the match, the bell rang and Nia Jax beat her in 9 seconds like King Kong Bundy beat SD Jones, fine, go for
Yeah,
it. Because then at least there's a payoff. But it was actually like they actually got a lot of time and it was awful. Like it was a really bad match.
yeah,
And it was all set up so Alexa Bliss could win it back with the money in the bank just to lose to Ronda Rousey.
yeah.
Speaking of Ronda Rousey, that's a perfect segue. I set it up intentionally. Number 4 on my list is no Sasha Banks and Charlotte Flair 2022 WrestleMania. Now, you can make the argument that them not having this match ended up being a great thing for women's wrestling. Simply because I don't think Mercedes leaves the company if that match happens and she got her big win. I don't think she walks out. I don't think she, does what she does and gets to AEW. I think she's still in WWE because at that
Agree.
point, she would win the Royal Rumble and beat kind of her nemesis at WrestleMania and get her big moment.
It would have main evented too.
Yes. Well, okay. What were the two main events of 22? Was it Austin and Kevin Owens? It ain't main eventing over that.
Yeah, I think it would have main evented, at least in the honor of, it would have been like that. It would have been the match right before that. It would have been
Okay.
the real main event match. But no, it wouldn't have gone on last. No. Would you have not called it a main event? Maybe not. But they would have gotten a spot right before that and the time to tear it down.
But I will tell you this, it would have had a better chance to legitimately main event
Correct.
than what ended up happening, which was Ronda Rousey against Charlotte Flair, which was not a good
Yeah.
match. And the reason I say that this is my number 4 worst booking decision ever is because I do, and whether you think Io is better or you think Saya is better or you think Manami Toyota is better than Mercedes, who cares? Mercedes is still a generational women's wrestling talent and an overall wrestling talent. I mean, she has proven it over and over and over again. She has been a history maker. She has changed the game. She has been, in my opinion, the most important women's wrestler of my lifetime, including more important than Manami Toyota. So you don't let that person walk out of your company. So to me, losing that person is a bad booking decision. And the reason that they lost her is because of this.
I have more words to say about this later on in my list. So
So
I
you have it
will
higher up.
yeah,
Okay.
your turn for number 3.
So this is my controversial one. Like how you have Naya and Alexa, this is the one that coming from this person, nobody's going to see. Amber Moon losing to Asuka in NXT. If
It's a
you
good
ever
one.
were gonna make Amber Moon a mega star, she had to beat Asuka.
Yeah.
The match they had was an all-time classic. I mean, at the time, that was probably the second best women's match of all time in WWE, behind.
Yes.
But Asuka winning and then giving the title up because she was getting called to the main roster, awful. Just Awful. Amber Moon was never the same after that. Never the same. And I think honestly it hurt Asuka too. I think it hurt Asuka too.
Yeah, I no, it's a great one. WWE fans would not have held it against Asuka to lose that belt. If anything, to your point, I think they would have liked it. It didn't hurt Sasha Banks at all to lose to Bayley twice, right? That was the right thing to do.
You cannot, as the person who was running booking at that point, if NXT was Triple H, and I'm tired of hearing all of the WWE hit pieces about how Bret Hart didn't want to do the honors. And at the same time, Asuka isn't even the one who said I wouldn't lose. They just told her you're not gonna lose for what? For her to lose to, for her to lose to Charlotte, then 2 days later Charlotte loses to, Carmella. Like it's all jumbled. If they were going to ever get a superstar out of Amber Moon, that was the night to do it in Brooklyn. And they didn't do it.
100%.
They failed. So to me, that's my number three worst booking decision of all time.
That's a good one. So this one, as I have my number three, as I have become more familiar with AEW the last couple of years, specifically as I've kind of studied what Toni Storm has done. She's a four-time champion, been around the title scene for, going on pretty much the whole time she's been there, right? And when she's not around the title, she's been away. But it's not Toni that was the bad booking decision again on this one. Tony Khan got into a period of time where he was relying very, very heavily on WWE talent coming over. And it was people like Rusev and Aleister Black and people that the core AEW fan base weren't pining for, you know. You had Adam Cole, he was well received, and then you had Saraya. And you look, and Kris Statlander just became champion for the first time. Willow Nightingale has never been champion. You have these AEW originals who seemingly have been waiting in line for a very, very, very long time. And so I think my number three worst booking decision was Saraya winning the AEW championship at All In like a 8.5 minute match that was just for a hometown pop. It was literally just to book to the hometown pop. You created a scenario where Toni Storm is champion many times, but can't win it all in, right? She's losing every time the most important show comes up. Did that lead to the Timeless Toni character? I think it could have been someone different, but Saraya was not someone who the AEW crowd was pining to have leading a division. I'm not saying don't sign her, but she never fit the where the best wrestle mold. And it held back, I think, the ascendance of some of the superstars they had ready who could carry that mantle. And it's like, that's still today where people are like, well, Mercedes can't be champion. Willow's still never been champion. Kris Statlander's never been champion until recently. And it's like, you do realize that the belt was in a kind of a holding pattern for a very long time in and around Toni. So that was my number three. Because of that decision, I think it kind of created a domino effect for the hometown pop.
Interesting. I have to be honest, I wasn't really into the AEW women's division at that point. So to me, it's like her winning or losing the belt, I was indifferent.
I
And
think the time she had it though is why the 8 minute matches were accepted. Is kind of what I'm trying to say. Is it set the division back a year to
okay.
be where women are getting 15-minute
So
matches?
in a way, you're saying it's the same thing like what you're talking about with Alexa and Nia.
Correct.
But
Very similar.
they did it with the fat shaming that set it back. This is just the quality of matches. Okay.
Correct.
That's an interesting one. What is your number two?
Did you go number three already? Oh, yeah, you did. Okay. My number two, Ronda winning the 2022 Royal Rumble. You went from the angle that they lost Sasha Banks because of it, and I actually think that that's true. But I tried to make it less about Sasha and more about Ronda Rousey. And it's similar to what they're doing with the other MMA guy on the men's side that we do not need in the company. It's this desperation name ploy. Fans are not clamoring for them. By the way, the ratings are not going up. People are not dying to see these people wrestle. Charlotte was very much not over, and she was over just to beat Ronda. And then as soon as Ronda was gone, she was not over. That tells you that the fans just wanted Ronda gone. But here's the point I'm going to make. We had real momentum that the winner of the Women's Royal Rumble should main event WrestleMania. We had
Mhm.
WrestleMania 35. The winner main evented WrestleMania. WrestleMania 36 was done at a TV studio, not in front of the crowd, so that's kind of a one off.
Mhm.
WrestleMania 37, the Royal Rumble winner main event. So at the prior two WrestleManias that were in front of humans live, women, the Royal Rumble winner main evented WrestleMania. Ronda wins the Royal Rumble and is so cold that they're not even considered, and the women have not main evented WrestleMania since. Bailey Io should have main evented WrestleMania. Rhea Io,
Bianca.
and Bianca should have main evented WrestleMania. The stopper was Ronda winning, and now it kind of gave them that excuse that it doesn't happen anymore. And so yeah, it lost them Sasha Banks, but it also lost the division. The Royal Rumble winner main events WrestleMania because it was too cold to put in the main event. It could not have been the main event.
Yeah, I mean, it was just a bad booking decision all the way around. You know, whether it's losing Sasha Banks, losing momentum, losing credibility. Sasha Banks, I think, got eliminated in that Royal Rumble by Zelina Vega, leading to
Yeah,
her winning the tag belts with Naomi. I just think that it was just the idea of this Charlotte Flair Ronda Rousey dream match was only a dream match for Vince McMahon or
right.
Dave Meltzer. Like nobody else cared about their match. And I know they did have a pretty good match, I think, after Mania where they had the street fight thing.
Yeah,
But Ronda Rousey has never to me resonated as a performer in the WWE. Yes, she's a big name in UFC, and I have seen every one of her UFC fights. And a lot of them I ordered because I was living with somebody or somebody was living with me who was a huge fan of hers and ordered every single Ronda Rousey UFC fight. But WWE and UFC are two different things, as TKO is finding out.
right.
As TKO is finding out that charging UFC ticket prices for WWE doesn't work because WWE has always been a family oriented, kind of you bring my dad used to take me, you take your son, you take your daughter. You don't, it's not the single male night out, which is what the UFC has
Yeah,
always been. Disposable income, no family at home. Okay, we'll go fight night. Let's go get drunk and watch guys beat each other up or women beat each other up. It just doesn't work. But back to your number two. Yeah, I mean, it was just a bad decision. Like there was nothing good that came out of Ronda Rousey winning the 2022 Royal Rumble. Like nothing good came out of it. Like you said, Charlotte didn't get better. It didn't do anything but lose you a Sasha Banks. It is actually still one of my most liked tweets ever, which is you know, Ronda Rousey directly costed WWE Sasha Banks. And I know a lot of Ronda Rousey fans were very angry about that. Like, oh, you're blaming your whiner who goes home on Ronda. And it's like, yeah, because Ronda didn't deserve that spot. She just didn't. And there was no need to bring her back because there was momentum for Sasha and Charlotte. So I agree, and I could have put it higher. I think we're both saying the same thing. It was just a bad
yep.
book decision all the way around, but for different reasons. So my number two, sadly, it also involves Ronda Rousey, but I'm gonna give her the benefit of the doubt on this one. I think
Oh,
having Becky Lynch versus Ronda Rousey one on one at WrestleMania 35 was a horrific idea. You did nothing for anybody. So Becky and Rousey were the feud that everybody wanted to see. Everybody wanted to see when Becky put the armbar on Ronda leading up to the broken nose. That was about as hot as you could be as a wrestler. Becky Lynch was smoking hot. When they announced it was going to be Becky versus Ronda, there was, I mean, at that point, it was the main event. It was over with. It was the main.
Yep.
There was nothing else you could say that was going to top it. People were excited, people were interested. There was a real like anti-establishment versus corporate in Ronda. And then they put Charlotte in it, and it ruined everything. The match sucked. Ronda got pinned anyway, but she really didn't get pinned
Right.
because her shoulders were up. It was one of the worst
Disaster.
WrestleMania main events of all time.
Yep.
And what happened after that? Ronda Rousey left for
And
three
we
years.
never got the match.
For 3 years. She left for 3 years.
And it kind of led to the other one
Yeah, yeah.
in a way.
Like
Yeah.
she left. Becky Lynch got cold right away until blue hair Sasha came back. Charlotte was cold out of it. Nothing good came out of it. So to me, that's the only time I think they didn't do correct by Ronda Rousey, which is she, not that she was the reason I wanted that match to main event and even be a one-on-one, but I wanted to see Becky beat her one-on-one. And I wanted Becky to get the moment. That she still got the moment, she still main evented.
And they could have had a scrappy match that people would have liked.
I think they could have had a better, well, they would have had to have a better match because they couldn't have had a much worse match.
Right.
And I think Ronda Rousey, if you're gonna get the best out of her, it's gonna be in a one-on-one setting where she takes direction. And look, no matter what Becky says to all of you in interviews, she's a little bit of a fraud because she is friends with Ronda Rousey. They are friends. Don't let anybody fool you that they're not. They are. And they live near each other in LA. So it's like, I think that would have worked. But that's my number two worst women's booking decision of all time. Now, here's number.
Drum roll on number one.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure my number one is your number one, but we
Gotta
might
be.
label it different.
Right.
I'm just gonna say the worst booking thing ever, booking decision ever for women is 2016 Sasha Banks. That's it. I'm just gonna say 2016. I'm not gonna say, oh, she should have won at WrestleMania. No, no, no. The whole year she was booked terribly. Now I'm gonna give everybody a little bit of a quick history lesson here. So let's go back. 2016 at the beginning, Royal Rumble. Sasha Banks off TV for about a month. Comes back. Humongous pop. Huge pop. Clears Becky out of the ring. Clears Charlotte out of the ring. Woos at Ric Flair. Over like Rover. Boom. Okay. I'm gonna make this quick. So she does that. But instead of getting Charlotte versus Sasha at WrestleMania, we get a three-way.
Same
And,
mistake as the other one.
and Sasha didn't win. But Sasha ended up winning on a Monday Night Raw. To lose it, to win it, to lose it, to win it, to lose it. My point is, I know that feud, everybody says put the women's division on the map, but I'm gonna give it to you because I'm sure your number one is exactly the same.
Yeah.
My opinion, they had a legitimate opportunity to make the next female John Cena in Sasha Banks, and they did not do it because she lost way too much and she lost in stupid fashion, hometown, quitting at the end. It was just terrible. 2016, worst booked decision ever is the entirety of Sasha Banks in 2016. That's my number one.
No, yeah, we're on the exact same page. So I did label it different. So the way I looked at it was because I didn't want to have multiple of these matches on my list. I didn't want to be like it's number one, three, and four because it maybe could have been if you did it that way. So I looked and said, when did the crowd fully pull their parachute and stop believing? Okay, so WrestleMania, she loses. Off TV for a little bit, think has a little feud with Paige. Over like Rover when she wins in Pittsburgh, first title win. Okay. Loses at SummerSlam, got the little injury thing. So is SummerSlam the worst booking decision? Well, you were there in LA when she won the title for the second time.
Mhm.
over. Probably more over than she was in Pittsburgh. Then she leads off the show
In,
um,
in
in
Oakland.
Oakland and one of the biggest pops of her career. So if that's what they did, she's still good. So SummerSlam can't be it. Hell in a Cell. Main event in front of the Boston crowd. That has to be the worst one. Well, she loses and then she wins it back. And in North Carolina, in Charlotte, in Flair country, in Flair's backyard, she's over like Rover. And I think most importantly, the whole wrestling world tuned in to see it. It
Mhm.
main events Raw, and it has a huge, gigantic number against the Eagles and Packers, right? Um, so you can make the argument that in that moment, that is the biggest ascending star on a roster filled with Roman Reigns, Kevin Owens, all the veteran guys still around, Chris Jericho, very hot at the time, Seth Rollins. I mean, everyone was on that roster, and she was the ascending star. So the worst booking decision of all time is if we put more money into our editing, I would bleep out the second part of this. It'd be like road and then bleep because I just don't want to say the word, but it would be roadblock. Um, she lost, which was already bad enough. She
Mhm.
was winning at the end of an Iron Woman match, Iron Woman match, and taps with a second or two left and then loses in the overtime. They
Yeah.
literally took her superstardom in that moment, took it out back, and old Yellered it. It was a purposeful decision, almost like stop cheering for this person. Do we know why? We'll never know why. We'll probably never know why. But it was actually sabotage of her character in that moment. So that is the worst booking decision of all time on my list.
So I
Easily.
know we're going to end here. I know
Yeah.
a little bit of a time crunch. I will say this to end. The next night, she came out and said, Charlotte was just better. And the crowd was like, "Oh wow, what a loser you are."
What a loser.
I have this sourced that as soon as she lost, the people who wanted her to lose leaked reports to the dirt sheets. She's injury prone. She's hard to deal with backstage. She's not ready for these are all the talking points that they had ready for when she lost because they didn't want egg on their face for making such a bad decision. So that just tells you that the sabotage is actually the right word. That is
Yeah.
exactly what happened. And so we went down a painful memory lane for all the crew because, Sasha Banks has accomplished a lot in the world of women's wrestling and has been a game changer, but she's also been one of the worst booked top stars of all time in both companies
Yep.
in both companies. So, on that note, we are going to end this condensed version of the balance sheet. As always, please subscribe or like our podcasts, and you can get them on all of your streaming platforms: Apple, Spotify, Samsung, YouTube, RSS. Closing thoughts?
Appreciate everyone listening through. Top five is back and here to stay. And we should have a lot of fun stuff to cover next week. Thanks everyone for tuning in.
Thank you.
Bye.